The SEC has announced their attendees for SEC Media Days in Dallas, Texas. A lot of quarterbacks. Doesn't mean a lot of great quarterbacks, but a lot of quarterbacks. It could have easily been one more, but Tennessee decides not to take Nico Maleava. What's your take on the state of quarterbacking in the SEC? It seems to go ebb and flow. I can remember years where it was really, really bad. Other years where it seems like a future NFL superstar was just going to be walking down the hallway at SEC Media Days. Your take on where the SEC is now in quarterback play. And then as the next step, I'd like to kind of put where Nico might fit in there in the beginning, middle, and end of the year. But let's start your thoughts on the quarterback crew that's going to be in Dallas.
The SEC is about to have its best quarterback season ever. And I mean ever. So,
strong.
2 years ago, so we all knew, Dave and I were joking about it the minute we went to SEC Media Days last year. 5 of the 14 teams brought quarterbacks, and Tennessee brought Joe Milton by default. Let's be honest, okay? So we looked at each other.
So they felt they had to.
Yes. So we looked at each other, and we said, this is going to be a bad year for SEC quarterback play. The coaches just don't believe in their quarterback play. The opposite is true this year. 11 of 16 teams are bringing quarterbacks. Now, before I get to this year,
I want to go through them because I think some of them are more of a PR move than an actual he's the best player move. But go ahead.
Yeah, so 2022, Dave, when you went, it was 7 of 14 teams. And you went, saw 7 of 14 teams, and you said this is going to be a heck of a year for quarterbacks in the SEC. Didn't you? Like right off the bat, you knew it was going to be a good year.
I would have thought so, yes. What happened?
It was a good year for SEC quarterbacks.
Yeah, Burrow, of course.
No, 2022.
Oh, 2022. Okay.
You had Hooker, Anthony Richardson, Stetson Bennett, Bryce Young. Like that was a quarterback class if there ever was one for the SEC.
It's a good crew, but I'll tell you, I only like 2 of the ones you mentioned long term. Without getting caught up in that. But what about this year's class?
All right, so this year there's 11 out of 16 teams. And by the way, let's just get it out of the way. The team that's not bringing a quarterback, because we've talked about it all show, Tennessee, Nico Maleava, we'll get to that. But just want to point out there should be 12 out of 16 teams if everybody was bringing their best player. So Alabama's bringing Jalen Milroe. Now, this one's debatable, Dave, because Jalen Milroe I thought should have been in the Heisman race towards the end of last year. However, you can also make the point, and I'm all ears for it, that he's not going to be a fit for Kalen DeBoer's offense.
Right. Milroe could be 1 or 16 on this list by the end of September for me.
Exactly. So there's that.
Where's there 18 now? Is there 18?
No, 16. The Big Ten has 18.
Really going to confuse me.
Arkansas is bringing a transfer quarterback, Taylon Green. This is their Bobby Petrino experiment, shall we say. The Boise State.
What happened to KJ Jefferson? That guy went from being the cat's meow to get out of town.
Kendall.
Have any idea what happened to KJ Jefferson other than he's just not a very good quarterback?
Kendall Briles left Arkansas. That's what happened. So I think that he's now at UCF just in case you were curious. But yes, Taylon Green comes from Boise State.
Yeah, it just seems like it's odd to me. Seemed like he was a fan favorite. Go ahead.
Taylon Green comes to Arkansas from Boise State. Bobby Petrino is going to be his offensive coordinator. Arkansas's high on him. They're already trying to promote him. Now, another quarterback who should not be going to SEC Media Days, this is the Joe Milton. Are you ready for this year's Joe Milton, Dave?
No, I am, but I want to take it in a slightly different direction because I want to get Peyton Manning involved. And the Arkansas quarterback making SEC Media Days, are you telling me he was one of their top 3 players, Peyton?
They're like, that is total bullshit.
No. That's a PR move to promote their quarterback, which is, if I were Josh Heupel, I would be doing that as well. So I'm not knocking it, but I'm saying that's what it is.
Well, let's have a little more fun. Returning starter was not good last year. Peyton Thorne is coming for Auburn with Hugh Freeze. Dave, I watched Peyton Thorne play last year. I didn't think he was that good.
They're like, that is total bullshit.
He'll do better with a great quarterback coach. he'll be markedly better. If you think wherever you thought he was, if you thought he was 10th best quarterback in the nation, or I'm sorry, in the SEC, he'll be 6th.
Well,
He'll
he'll
be 4 or 5 steps better than where he was.
That's where I'm at. I think it takes a year to figure out Hugh Freeze's offense. So I think this year he'll be very, very good. Next one, and you're going to call me for all of his flaws, for all the flaws on the football team right now, Graham Mertz was not one of them at Florida. He's actually he was a very efficient quarterback last year.
That's hot.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I'm okay with him.
So
you followed that up with Anthony Richardson, who I thought was the most overblown quarterback and still is to this day in the history of Florida football.
Yeah. I kind of agree. So we got, in the history of Florida football, none of those Spurrier quarterbacks? Rex Grossman was a Heisman favorite. It's kind of funny to say that out loud now.
Yes, and he almost won the Heisman, almost won a Super Bowl.
He did.
That's like big shot Bob stuff there. I mean,
he's actually he's the best quarterback in the NFL to ever play for Steve Spurrier. That's kind of sad, but it's kind of funny.
He's the best player to ever play for Steve Spurrier. He's the best. He's probably one of the worst to almost win a Super Bowl. And can you imagine if a Florida player had beaten Peyton Manning in the Super Bowl? That would have not.
That would have been brutal. Well, Peyton did. Peyton is responsible for the most legendary Florida quarterback no longer having a job in the NFL because Peyton went to Denver, and that's what got Tim Tebow traded, and then Tim Tebow never got another job. So
okay, let me ask you this. You're not that far away, so you're not as old as me, but let me ask you this. Would 18-year-old Caleb, if he's offered the opportunity to go to Steve Spurrier's Fun and Gun team or Josh Heupel's team now, which would you select? And I'm going to let you think about that for 15 seconds from our good friend at Newbrook Collision Center.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Where you going, young Caleb? You're a 5-star. You get to go wherever you want.
I would probably go to Spurrier because I think Spurrier develops you a little. Spurrier doesn't teach bad habits. You have to accept certain things in his system, but he doesn't teach bad habits out of his quarterbacks. You know, Spurrier, I didn't realize, pioneered the way quarterbacks should hold the ball to help with their release. He was kind of one of the first coaches to do that. And
he does teach bad vision, okay, because I don't think they're designed to read the entire field. But I agree with you for the most part. I think he does a fine job of producing. If David Cutcliffe is a 10 on the scale of 1 to 10 of producing an NFL quarterbacks, and 1 is my son Trammell, then I think that clearly he's higher than not. But I think that Josh Heupel and both Steve Spurrier, when they get with quarterbacks to the NFL, the quarterbacks are going to have to be retooled a little bit.
Yes, but significantly more for Heupel than Spurrier. I think Peyton Manning still would have had an NFL Hall of Fame career had he gone to play for Florida under Spurrier. So I guess.
Okay, do you think that Nico Iamaleava would be a Heisman contender at the majority of the top 25 schools in college football right now?
Yes.
Okay.
But
I thought we were about to majorly disagree on something, so I thought I would just ask.
So to get back on track, because I want to recap, we mentioned Jalen Milroe, Taylon Green, Peyton Thorne, Graham Mertz. I think we believe in all of those quarterbacks to a certain degree, except you're questioning. You think Taylon Green is the one you question. You think that's a PR move by Arkansas, but the other three you believe in. So after that, do we have to ask this question? Georgia, Carson Beck, is that even a debate that he's a superstar?
No.
Yeah.
How many bona fide debates are there other than Beck at quarterback?
Well, it's funny you bring that up. LSU, Garrett Nussmeier, there seems to be a consensus that they're not going to miss their Heisman winning quarterback in Jaden Daniels. There seems to be consensus that they're not going to have a drop off at all.
I've thought that exactly. And Garrett Nussmeier to me looks like a guy that just needs to go ahead and be a high school quarterback, because if you want to compare him to Jaden Daniels, you can do so all day long, but they're not on the same plane. And I think you would agree, Caleb. I'm pretty decent at evaluating guys, and that ain't your championship winning quarterback. It's not.
No, but he could be your T. Martin if LSU makes the right move on defense.
Could. I think he's more like what happens to LSU in 2019 without Joe Burrow, and that is they don't win the national title. I think they're more along the lines of that.
Wow, so you think Brian Kelly is the next Ed Orgeron? Man. And I thought he was the first LSU coach with brain cells since
No, you know what I think? I think Joe Burrow was that special where he overcame Orgeron, and he could have overcome Les Miles. I don't think they have a guy to overcome Brian Kelly now, who I actually think is a significantly better coach than. But
they don't have to. But that's my point. Do they have to overcome Brian Kelly?
I agree. They don't have to. They don't have to.
Jackson Dart, Ole Miss, elite quarterback, superstar quarterback. Like, not even a question.
I'm going to go knocking on the door. I'm not ready to deem him elite. Elite to me is Bryce Young.
Blake Shapen, Mississippi State. That's another PR move because Jeff Levy's there.
Yes.
You can hate him all day, but Brady Cook, Missouri. I think he's a very good quarterback.
He's the natural. You would take him. He started before. He's played well. It would almost be an insult not to take him.
Oklahoma. This is another LSU story where they seem to think that they're better off with Jackson Arnold than Dylan Gabriel this year. So
which is odd.
That pretty much, and then Texas, Quinn Ewers, which that speaks for itself. I just think the SEC is going to be better this year at quarterback than ever before, and that includes the Cam Newton, Joe Burrow, and Johnny Manziel years.
Those are good years, man. Those are good years. We'll see. I want to see where Nico falls in this. You feel confident that Nico will be the second best quarterback in the SEC?
Best. He's going to be the best by the end of the year. The closest competitor is the SEC East in 2008 when you had Matthew Stafford and Tim Tebow. Remember that one? But that's all I could really think of.